What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be grading the 2025 free agent class for the New York Jets up until this point. So at the time of recording, I believe this is March 22nd. I think I'm recording this. And yeah, the Jets, I think what Darren Moogie and Aaron Glenn have done so far has been pretty much what I expected them to be. Splash for a couple of free agents. But then other than that, kind of just save their money and just, piecemeal together a couple one-year deals for some veterans to fill some holes and then really start to build this team more from the ground up through the draft. It's going to be a process, and I'm happy with the free agency up until this point. Now, granted, a lot of these players that we're going to be going through today were really just backup stopgaps. That's really all it is. It's just a lot of depth, a lot of rotational players, but we're going to talk about it anyway. And the way that this is categorized is I have it in three different categories. I have it in re-signed free agents, so players that were on the team last year that were re-signed. Then I have general free agents and depth signings, and then I have big money, in quote, free agents. So we're going to take a look at it. Grading system obviously is A through F and then incomplete. I'm a pretty easy grader. It's not too hard to impress me or to get me excited, to be quite honest with you. So my grades might be a little bit easier than other people's, but that's just the criteria that I have. So let's get into it. So of course, as I mentioned, we have the returning free agents. Now, in my opinion, the biggest thing that Moogie and Glenn could have done this offseason was retain Jamien Sherwood. That's exactly what they did. That was essentially one of the first moves that they made. This, at the time, a lot of people were saying this was a lot of money for Jamien Sherwood. 3 years, $45 million. That is $30 million guaranteed. Listen, $10 million guaranteed for one of the best young linebackers in football. That gets an easy A+ from me. I mean, that is just a great piece of business. A lot of people might be saying $15 million a year for an off-ball linebacker is a lot of money. And, if you want to go back about 6 to 8 years, yeah, I would say that's an insane amount of money. But, times are changing. The salary cap is going up $22+ million every single year. 15 million this year is what, 8 million was 10 years ago. That's basically what we're looking at now. So 15 is the new 8. You just kind of have to double everything. But Sherwood is fantastic. I believe he was, 4th or 5th in total tackles last year in the NFL. Him and Quincy Williams, you had to figure that they made this signing knowing that CJ Mosley was going to be cut. I mean, you solidify the linebacker position with Sherwood and Quincy Williams. You have to figure Williams, probably after this year, if he's still on the Jets, is going to want a new deal. I believe he's making $6 million a year. I think it is $6 million a year. So he's probably going to want some type of pay bump. But yeah, locking down Sherwood for me was the biggest move of the entire offseason. I thought it was, if they were to walk away from this offseason with one thing done, for me, it was going to be Jamien Sherwood. So the re-signing was always going to be an A+ for me. So then, of course, we have Jamin Davis, and a lot of people might go, well, I didn't even realize Jamin Davis was on the team. And I don't think he played a single snap for the Jets. I believe he was added to the practice squad after like week 16 or 17. But they did bring him back on a one-year contract. I have it as an incomplete grade. Haven't seen the guy play a single snap for the Jets. I believe this past year, when he started off the season in Washington, and I don't remember exactly where he went to play for the rest of the season. I think it was Minnesota before he came to the Jets practice squad. Both teams were trying him out as a defensive end. So he was drafted as an off-ball linebacker in the middle of the first round a few years ago. It just really didn't work out. He never really developed his game to the NFL level. He was a great linebacker. I believe it was at Kentucky. I want to say Jamin Davis. He was a great linebacker. Taken with the old Commanders regime. Obviously, he has no fit in Adam Peters' system, especially if you're moving an off-ball linebacker down to defensive end at 234 pounds. But I think if Davis has a year under his belt as a defensive end, as someone that could probably play outside linebacker for you in this Aaron Glenn system, I think it's a nice 1 year. Hey, let's see what we got here. Maybe we could turn, chicken shit into chicken salad, I guess I would say, with Jamin Davis. And I'm not knocking him. It's tough to go from an off-ball linebacker to a defensive end. So wherever he fits, I'm sure that if he is on the actual roster, he'll get some playing time, but it's incomplete for now. And then you have Kene Nwanwu here, who Wanwu made quite an impact in his first game with the New York Jets. He took a kick return for a touchdown. I believe it was the first kickoff return he took with the New York Jets. He took it back for a touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks this past season. Yeah, I love this move. You essentially take, with this move, that tells me they're either just moving Xavier Gipson into being like a full-blown punt returner / wide receiver, or they're cutting Xavier Gipson. And to be honest with you, I would be fine with the latter more than the former, because I think besides for the first punt return of Xavier Gipson's career at the beginning of 2 seasons ago, I don't really think he's done a whole hell of a lot for the New York Jets, and I would like to get a former All-Pro in there. Now, Wanwu is someone that's more of a kick returner more than a punt returner, so taking Xavier Gipson off kick return duties is fine for me. The field position game with the new kickoff is such a huge part of the momentum in the game of football now. But Wanwu for 1 year, $2.5 million to be strictly your kickoff returner, I think it's a great move. I love it. You're getting an all-pro, former all-pro kickoff returner. You really can't beat that. And then I have Isaiah Oliver here, a to-be-determined contract. I believe it's a 1 year deal. It's just the money. Whenever you see the TBD next to it, it means to be determined. So Jamin Davis, 1 year. The money hasn't been released yet at the time of recording. Same thing with Isaiah Oliver. I believe it is a 1 year deal, but we do not know how much money he is getting. But a lot of people thought Isaiah Oliver was burnt toast last year, and I would sort of kind of be one of them. But I really like Oliver. This is someone who played in all 17 games last year for the New York Jets. So when you can get him back on a 1 year to be determined contract, I mean, that's a pretty good piece of business for me. Isaiah Oliver was thrusted into a starting role, or a mega role, way more than he probably should have been last year, as someone that hopefully this upcoming year is going to be a warm body as a backup corner or a backup safety. I think it's a great move because Oliver has proven that he can play at the NFL level time and time again. As a depth piece, if you're signing Isaiah Oliver to be a starter, I'd probably have this as like a D or an F. But I'm hoping that this contract is him just being a depth or rotational player where I think he can exceed expectations. He's never really been that great of a coverage guy throughout his career so far. But like I said, someone that, he made a couple really nice plays for the Jets last year towards the end of the season too. So he definitely kind of gained some momentum in the role that he was playing for the Jets. Again, if you look at the numbers, he was pretty much burnt toast all year. But for someone that played an entire season under his belt and hopefully is going to be in a depth spot this year, a 1 year to be determined contract is an easy B for me. And that's really where I don't want to say like the B to B minus to C is kind of like status quo for me, where it's like it doesn't move the needle for me, but I think it was a necessary enough signing where like I can get sort of kind of excited about that person being a warm body. So then, of course, we have these smaller free agent deals here. We're going to go left to right here. So at first we have Chris Boyd with a 1 year to be determined contract. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of the signing. Again, it's status quo. It's another warm body for the defensive backfield for the New York Jets. He is listed as a corner, although he's played the majority of his career for special teams. So that's what kind of confuses me, unless Chris Boyd is going to be maybe your punt returner. So you signed Wanwu to be your kick returner, essentially. You still have Xavier Gipson on the roster, so you figure that he's going to be your punt returner. Irvin Charles is your gunner. So I don't really know where Chris Boyd fits here. But again, it's never bad to have depth. Again, this is also a player that is going to be like your 5th or 6th cornerback on the roster. So he's never really going to see the field barring some catastrophic injuries. So as someone that's going to be a warm body, that's going to be like a backup special teamer in case, Irvin Charles gets hurt, or even a backup punt returner in case they cut Xavier Gipson or Xavier Gipson gets hurt, it's a fine signing for me. Stone Smart gets an A for me because I really enjoyed watching. First off, Stone Cold Smart is way too close to Stone Cold Smart. And for that reason alone, that gets an A for me. When you have an unbelievable name, not even an unbelievable football name, just an unbelievable name in general, Stone Cold Smart is a fantastic name. So it gets an A right off the bat. But yeah, last year he set career highs in receiving. He really came into his own over the last month of the season. I think his numbers don't blow you away. I believe he had 16 catches for like 201 receiving yards or something like that. But as the season went on, he carved more and more of a role for himself. So Stone Smart is someone, as of right now, with Tyler Conklin signing with the Los Angeles Chargers, they essentially just swapped Stone Smart for Conklin. But I think Conklin has a little bit more receiving upside than Smart. Smart is very, very athletically gifted. I think this is someone that can be your seam tight end in a 12 or 13 personnel even. He's someone that, with Jeremy Ruckert, are the only two tight ends under contract right now for the New York Jets. That is very concerning. But if Stone Smart is someone that's going to be my third tight end, you have to assume, you got to assume with the way that Ruckert has played throughout his career for the Jets, you got to assume he's on the chopping block. As soon as they draft a tight end, he's got to be on the chopping block. So if Stone Smart's going to be your 12 or 13 personnel tight end, I think that's great for the 1-year deal. I really enjoy it. And he's actually a pretty decent route runner as well. I enjoy the signing. I love saying the name, and it gets an A for me. Byron Cowart is someone who's spent, I believe he's been in the NFL for like 6 years. This is his 5th team. The numbers don't blow me away. See, these next 3 guys here really don't blow me away in terms of depth signings, and that's really all they are. So Cowart is someone that gets 1 year, $1.4 million, which he's only guaranteed $167,000, which is insane incentives, because I can almost guarantee you that Cowart is not going to hit those incentives to make more than like $500,000 for the most part. Those incentives must be set super, super low. Like, oh, if you get 2 sacks this season. I believe he set a career high in sacks last year with 1.5. But I'm looking at all the points, so it drove me to say 1.5. So 1.5 sacks for him in a limited role for the Chicago Bears. I believe he played 22% of the defensive snaps. This is a fine depth signing. I don't really know what to make of it, because he's not a great pass rusher and he's not a great run defender. So this, again, is just a warm body signing that you kind of hope he never really sees the field that much. You kind of hope Quinnen Williams stays healthy. You kind of hope, I guess, Derek Nottie right now would be your defensive tackle that's starting next to Quinnen Williams. So you kind of hope Derek Nottie stays healthy or stays at that 3rd rotational defensive tackle, and they draft one quite early in the draft. Yeah, it's a C for me. It doesn't really move the needle at all, but for the price, especially since you're probably going to be paying under $1 million for him throughout the season, and it's a warm body depth piece, it's fine as a C. Jay Tufele is the one that I hate, though. I hate this signing because Tufele, throughout his entire career, has been terrible. He has been a horrible football player up until this point. He was, I believe, as a run, all the defensive tackles in football that accumulated enough snaps to have a run defense grade, I think he was like 120th out of 124. And that's not just this year. It's been basically every single year, except his first year in the NFL, where he actually was a pretty decent pass rusher. I believe he had like a 77 grade, but that was also in super limited snaps. That was in like 80 snaps. So it's a really small sample size. Tufele is someone that I hope never sees the field. To be determined contract. I don't even think the signing should have been made. This is a super warm body that you kind of hope just stays the entire season on the practice squad, or kind of stays buried on the depth chart. I know that sounds harsh, but if you look at the raw numbers, Tufele is an absolute liability out there. And he spent last year with Cincinnati, or the last couple years with Cincinnati. So you know how bad their defensive line has been, especially against the run. And Tufele has, been a big part of that. And Derek Nottie, again, is someone that if the Jets signed Derek Nottie to a 1-year contract 3 years ago, I'd be very excited, because he was coming off of a couple really, really productive back-to-back years. The last 3 seasons, Nottie's snap percentage has gone down, where I think he played 20% of the defensive snaps last year, and he was horrible. The last couple years, he's been really bad against the run, and that's kind of his bread and butter, is being good against the run. And, he's never someone that's going to push the pocket, but he's someone that's going to make tackles at the line of scrimmage, and he just hasn't been doing that the last few years. And Nottie is someone that, I'm fine with as the starting. It's essentially like a little bit of a worse Javon Kinlaw, to be quite honest with you. This is essentially a like for Solomon Thomas, because I don't know how Solomon Thomas played as many years for the Jets as he did, but Derek Nottie is basically like a like for Solomon Thomas, someone that just. Solomon Thomas was really never that good, so I can't even say that someone that used to be good that isn't anymore. But hopefully Nottie is a backup or a rotational defensive tackle for the Jets this year. It all depends on what they do in the draft. But I like him for what he could be if he gets back to somewhat decent form. Someone that hopefully could play like 25 to like 40% of the snaps. But yeah, this signing just doesn't move the needle for me. It's a C. Josh Myers. A 1 year, $2 million fully guaranteed deal. I love it. I think besides for his first 2 seasons in the NFL where he was good, Myers hasn't been that great the last couple of years. But if this is for what I think it is, and it's just purely interior offensive line depth, I think this is a great signing. You're getting someone that has started the last 4 years in the NFL. You're getting someone that has almost or more than 60 starts under his belt to be your backup center. I think that's a great move. And this is kind of twofold because I think it's a B- for a backup role. It's like a C or a D if the Jets decide to slide Joe Tippmann out to right guard and then AVT out to right tackle, and then Josh Myers is your full-time starting center. I think you're actually losing some value there. I think that would be like a C or a C- for me if that's the case. But if he's just going to be a interior offensive line depth piece, I think this is a great signing. Tyler Johnson as well, someone who has never had 400 receiving yards in his career, but has kind of bounced around as a pretty decent wide receiver 4 or 5. Right now, it's kind of sad that he would probably be your wide receiver 3, depending on how you look at it. Right now, the depth chart looks like, in terms of starters, it would be Garrett Wilson as your 1, Lazard as your 2, and Xavier Gipson or Malachi Corley as your 3. So Tyler Johnson right now is probably your 4th best wide receiver, which is not great. But for someone that, in case wide receivers do get hurt over the course of the season, as someone that could come in and be, an opposite of a Garrett Wilson type of guy if someone gets hurt or someone gets cut. I mean, 6'2", 205 pounds. He's got the size to win on the outside. He's had some exciting plays in his career. A 1-year to be determined deal is completely fine with me. I think it's a B. I do like it as a depth signing. Rashad Weaver as well is a B for me. One of the worst edge rushers in terms of run defense last year, but when you look at the numbers, he only played 14 snaps last year, was basically hurt or on the practice squad for most of that time. He's only a couple years removed from a 5.5 sack season with Seattle. So, with Seattle? No, with Tennessee, I'm sorry. And, it's a good, solid depth piece for me. If he could kind of sort of return to that pass rushing prowess that he had a few years ago, I'm fine with him being a, practice squad or very limited rotational player. That's fine with me. Chukwuma Okorafor is a lot of people hated this signing. I do believe we have, I think it's like a 1-year, $1.2 million deal now. I think I did see that yesterday. I did forget to fix it. But Okorafor is someone that has over 60 starts under his belt in his career for Pittsburgh, and last year he didn't really play for New England, but predominantly Pittsburgh. He's someone that just eats games. He eats snaps for you, and this is a really nice backup. I mean, the Jets, time and time again, have had injured starting offensive tackles, and I am so sick of seeing Carter Warren and Max Mitchell play on the outside. Max Mitchell, I'm a little bit more of a fan of if he decides to slide inside and be interior offensive line depth. Carter Warren is okay as a backup right tackle, I guess. But Okorafor is someone that I would welcome, honestly, as being a spot starter. His numbers are not as bad as people would say they are. And for 1 year, $1.2 million, I think it's a completely valid signing. And then you have Austin McNamara, who is, I guess they're going to cut Thomas Morstead, because why would you keep 2 punters on the roster? I don't know what's going on there, but it's incomplete because I have no idea what's going on there. And then, of course, you have the last 3, the big money signings, quote unquote. So we have Brandon Stevens here. Now, Stevens last year was pretty bad, if we're being completely honest. 3 years, $36 million initially stood out as me, as I was like, whoa, we're really overpaying for either a free safety or a cornerback number 2 that is coming off of a really bad season. You might as well have signed DJ Reed for that type of money, or a little bit more. But it gets a B- because I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Moogie and Glenn obviously know something where they're going to put this guy in the defensive backfield. He's a year removed from having his best season. Stevens is also someone, he really intrigues me as a free safety because he's a really big body. He's got perfect size for the position, and he's a really good pass rusher, to be honest with you too. He's graded out in like top 5 or top 10 for the cornerback position. like the last like 2 out of the 3 years in terms of pass rushing from that position. So he's someone that can come with a little juice from Derry in terms of a safety blitz or a cornerback blitz. So that's something that's interesting to look at as well. But like I said, 2 years removed from a 2 interception season, which was easily his best. If this is your cornerback two going into the season, I'm more than fine with it. I think between Sauce Gardner, Brandon Stevens, and Michael Carter, I think that's a very formidable top three. You have Quantez Stiggers as one of your backups. You're going to sign, you have Chris Boyd, as we mentioned before, who is a corner. You're going to draft one or probably two corners. I think we're more than fine. Same thing, even if he decides to draft a corner early and Steven slides back to play safety, I'm more than fine with that. I think the only thing that doesn't make this an A for me or a B or a B plus is the money. 3 years, $36 million is a little high, but it gets a lot better when you look at the fact that it's essentially $7.5 or $7.75 million a year with the 3 years, $23 million guaranteed. And then I'll save Justin Fields for last. And then Andre Cisco, I love the 1 year, $10 million deal because Cisco is someone that just really embodies what Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks are looking for in a safety. Again, someone that's coming off of a pretty down year last year, but the last 2 seasons, he was great for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So someone that I think if he can get back to form as that downhill, hard-hitting safety who can cover as well. He has pretty good coverage grades throughout the last 3 years, minus last year. So the 3 years, he has pretty decent coverage grades averaged out. I think this is a fine deal. This is someone that the only downside of this signing is I don't think that the Jets target a safety early in the draft now. I think you're looking at probably an early day 3 or a mid day 3 pick for a safety now. Whereas I would hope that they would look for an Andrew Makuba or a Xavier Watts or a Kevin Winston, maybe in round 2, depending on what they do in round 1. But I think that kind of ixnays that and maybe even slides it back to 73 or pick number 109. So a little disappointing there, but I think Cisco is a fantastic signing for what he's going to be in this defense. And then Justin Fields gets an A+ for me. I mean, you really can't beat 2 year. It's essentially 2 years, $30 million guaranteed. You cannot beat for a starting quarterback in today's game. You can't beat $15 million a year guaranteed, where the average this isn't the average across starters. This is the average across the board last year for quarterbacks. Quarterbacks were averaging $22 million a season. Now, from a financial standpoint, this makes a lot of sense. You make Garrett Wilson very happy, and you open up a special brand of offense that the Jets have never seen before, and the Jets fans have never seen before. If you're committed to this Justin Fields offense, you have 3 very willing and able running backs in Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis, and Braylon Allen. This is also what makes me think Armin Membu is going to be the 7th overall pick because you have a young, athletic, talented offensive line minus the right tackle position right now. You add Membu to the offensive line, you have an unbelievable running attack between an arguably top 10 offensive line, Justin Fields, who is the 2nd or 3rd best rushing quarterback in the NFL as of right now. And then you still have G5 on the outside and probably a rookie wide receiver too. I like it. I think it's young. I think it plays to the strengths of the offense. Justin Fields is not someone that's going to drop back and throw 350, 400 yards a game. He's someone that can use his legs and can use them very effectively. And I think that if this is the offense that we want to run with Tanner Engstrand, I'm more than fine with me, especially at 2 years, $30 million guaranteed, which could move up to $20 million a season, which is more than fine with me. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are my grades for the Jets free agency class up until this point. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Let me know how you feel about free agency so far. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.